Thanks for having me, Brandon.
Of course, of course. I appreciate you reaching back out to be on the podcast, looking at your experience and what you're currently doing in the tech industry. So I'm happy to dive in. So I think the first thing I wanted to jump into is just your background. How did you kind of get to this point? If you look at your background, you have a wealth of experience, and now you're the director of content and community at the National CIO Review and the CIO Network, as well as the IT Leaderboard. So were you always, you have a lot of titles. So how did you get interested into the tech space? What led you to be interested in, building with tech leaders and building curated content, for those individuals? Can you kind of take us through that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think I've always loved technology and tech. My whole family is kind of in those IT roles or adjacent. So I've just kind of always grown up around it. But I definitely didn't. This wasn't a dream job. I didn't really know it existed until I fell into it, right? And I'm sure a lot of community managers can have the same story. It's interesting. I started at a nonprofit and I was there for years. And at a nonprofit, you wear a lot of different hats. So I was, helping with projects, and I was an executive assistant and to the president. And one of the kind of initiatives that fell to me to spearhead was launching this internal communications hub or an intranet, whatever you want to call it. And I think that was probably 7 or 8 years ago now. That was really what kind of sparked my love for kind of building this community. At the time, the company didn't really have any um, one internal communications. There wasn't like a Slack that every department used, or it was kind of each company or each department was siloed. So this was kind of our way of bringing it all into one, and it was really fun for me to see, the IT department all of a sudden talking to, the marketing team and the publishing team and different teams, not just in the yes, yes, I'll answer your ticket. I'll give you the tech that you need, but in fun, kind of ways. And so I think that that's really where my love of the community was kind of formed. And then in that, I did a lot of events, the leadership events, the nonprofit kind of did that. So that's kind of where my love of like live events came from. So I think my time at the nonprofit really kind of sparked that kind of love. So.
I love that. And for people who aren't too familiar with nonprofits or working at a nonprofit, like what would you say the major differences are between, working for a for-profit or a corporation that, obviously a lot of people who might be listening do versus like a
Yeah.
nonprofit and what you gain from that?
Yeah. I think you know, nonprofits are really mission driven, at least the one I was at, and, less of a budget. So you get creative and you really get close to your team, and your different departments. And so there's just this different I guess there's just this different feeling or mindset of people that work there that, it's like, oh, well, we're doing this for good. So, let's figure it out any way we can. Like I've got tape at home, I can bring in, this mic for the podcast that we're launching or things like that. So I think you get really creative and you get really good at problem solving when you work at, nonprofit, maybe startup before they get investors or bootstrapped companies. I think are very similar in that um, as well.
For sure, for sure. And so now you're at the National CIO Review. Can you talk to the audience about, if they're not aware of what that is or what your initiatives are, both at the CIO Review and the CIO Network?
Yeah, for sure. So very niche. Not a lot of people know of us unless you are a CIO or CTO or kind of in that C-suite technology role is our main audience. And so we're founded by a former CIO. All in the everything we do, I should say, is just trying to amplify the voice of the CIO. So technology departments are often overlooked, right? They're like, yeah, 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 we can they're just part of the operational. And so we're trying to amplify that voice, amplify the how technology departments can how they apply to the business, right? They're really for the business. They have great applications for that. So everything we do is just how can we teach and show these technology leaders like, hey, it's important to help brand yourself as a thought leader outside of the IT department. How can you talk to other technology leaders, see how they're doing this, how they're talking to their board, different areas. So, the National CIO Review online publication, the majority of our content is written by city technology leaders, which is what makes us different than other publications. It also makes my job as a community manager a little bit harder, but also that's why community is so important, right? For C-suite leaders, they're busy. So getting them to write a full article, it can feel like you're chasing, cats and dogs, trying to corral them in. Um, but that's kind of the main mission for the National CIO Review. And then what I like to call my secret weapon for supplying the writers for the National CIO Review is through the CIO Professional Network. So that is a fully online private community for C-suite technology leaders. And we're very protective of it. It functions just like a private LinkedIn, right? News feed, discussion posts. We share learning resources and professional dev resources, but we're very, very protective of who we allow in that community. There's no outside vendors. We're very cautious of even fractional and advisor CIOs because we don't want anybody coming in and selling. And the reason we do that is because, we want our members to feel this safety. We're trying to foster this safe environment for them to, put their questions in the feed of, hey, I'm really struggling with X in the cybersecurity area, or my CEO is, bugging me for AI and we just don't have the, team to launch it. How are you guys doing it? And what I would, fun anecdote that I always tell people are because we're so cautious and serious about keeping it a private community, the community one is really healthy, really, collaborative. But you've got people, I've got members that are replying to these discussion, board posts and they're putting their cell phone numbers there. They're like, hey, little too long of a story to put here. Give me a call, Bob. You're never going to see somebody share publicly their cell
Yeah.
phone number on LinkedIn. They're just not. So that to me is always kind of a win in the community. So those are kind of, I don't know if I got too off topic of your question, but
No, that was great.
so
That
yeah.
gave a lot of context. And there's a couple of things I want to dive into about what you said. I
Yeah.
think the first thing is you talked about how hard it is to reel in some of those people to get them to write and to get them to provide content. Do you have any tips or strategies? Because I remember a couple episodes ago I was talking to this lady named Ariella, and she was talking about the importance of just not being afraid to reach out to to CEOs or CIOs, in your case CTOs,
Yeah.
because even though they are busy people, they are people, and you just kind of have to find your way and have a framework or strategy to get what you need for the betterment
Yeah.
of the community and what you're trying to do. So, do you have an example or any ways that you're able to kind of curate, ongoing content so that you're not falling behind or that the content stays fresh or anything like that?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it can be intimidating to reach out to C-level people, especially getting started. And I've got a young team that works for me and they're awesome, but some of them are fresh out of college. So
Yeah.
they're extremely intimidated, right? Reaching out to these 50-year-old people, 60-year-old people, C-suite. But they're human, they're regular people, they're at their soccer, kids' soccer games. So I think getting past that is and just speaking to them as if you're a peer is one of the things that we've noticed. If they send a short email, don't send them 4 paragraphs back. Send them a short email. Match their energy, has been a real game changer, and I always tell the team that especially is, match that executive presence. So don't go, "Oh, I hope you're okay." Just say, "Hey, you mentioned this. I'm following up. Let me know what a good time is." And we also approach it, this seems kind of counterintuitive, but we really approach these follow-ups and these conversations, especially for content from these C-suite leaders, almost as a sales process. So you chase them down, you chase them down. and you calendar follow-ups, you mention things, but it's really just following up relentlessly, and asking the leaders, "Hey, when do you want me to follow up with you so I'm not bugging you?" They really appreciate that. And then if they have a preferred channel of communication, that's the other thing that I've found um, to be really, really successful. I've got one CIO and he prefers text, you know, and
Wow.
after about a year of talking to him, he goes, "Okay, I know this is weird, but can you just text me? Like, I'll get back to you really quick." I'm like, "Yeah, of course," you know? Um, but that's after a year of building that relationship and just shooting back and forth. I mean, our email thread used to look like text messages. Like they were short and conversational like that. Um, and that's kind of a
That's
strategy
great
that works
advice.
for us. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. I mean, I just took from that, get straight to the point, don't add fluff, ask exactly what you need. And it takes time to build that connection. That's something that you
Yeah.
don't build overnight where you can be able to text a C-suite level executive, at any given time, you have to build that connection, that rapport, right?
Yeah.
And at the same time, a lot of people don't know about the art of the follow-up where you have to not be afraid to, sometimes you feel like you're bugging people, but at the
Yeah.
end of the day, they might not see it because they have 1,000 emails to look at a day and, different meetings to get in and out of. But at the same time, as long as you continue to drip, on people and follow up, it goes a long way. And, you might miss out on a connection or miss out on opportunity if you don't do that. Right?
Exactly.
So,
I'll even say that in an email. "Hey,
yeah.
if I'm bugging you," or like, "Hey, I'm sorry I'm
Yeah.
bugging you." They love that. They're like, "Oh, no, no, no. I promise you're not bugging me." So yeah.
Yeah, and that's the authenticity, right? Being authentic, being transparent, like, "Hey, am I bugging you? What's the cadence that you prefer?" Just
Yeah.
being direct with people, I think people really appreciate that, especially those individuals like you're talking about who are
Yeah.
very busy. So yeah, I love that. And then before we go to the next question, you talked about kind of the difference between a private community and then like something like LinkedIn or a public forum, like
Yeah.
Facebook groups or something like that. So you kind of talked about the benefits of having a private community, but a lot of people out there, especially community members or community managers in this case, they want to
Sure.
have a big audience. They want to, have be able to reach everybody, but sometimes it's the riches and the niches and creating a
Yeah.
curated private community. There's a lot more benefits. So could you speak more to like more of those benefits on your POV?
Yeah, for sure. I like what you said, riches and niches.
Yes.
That's cute. I like it. I think that's definitely what we have, right? We've got the big, broad publication, and then we've got the private. So I really think I've got the best of both worlds, and I'm lucky in that capacity. But when it comes to the private community, it gives you that one-on-one connection where you might not be able to build community and relationships with people to text, right? If you just have this big, broad community. And so I think it's about defining, you know, what success is and what winning looks like for you and your team for community. And I think we had to redefine that for us, right? We went into it, we were like, we want the discussion board, we want 20 people replying and X number of replies and posts a day. And we had to redefine that probably a year or two ago, going, that's not what our members want. They want areas, and I've got answers later on, but we do a lot of virtual roundtables. And that is what we found is the our members' favorite thing because it gives them 45 minutes to an hour on a Zoom, unfiltered, where they can just talk about whatever the topic of the day is. And that's really where we gauge our success and our health of our community. It's where I get a lot of the trending topics and the, content for the publication. So that's kind of my secret sauce to know what really is top of mind for these C-suite leaders.
I think that's very valuable, especially I think we're seeing more and more the importance of building the private community. And, on that topic of tech leaders that you're working with, there's a lot of event planning that goes into it. It seems like, especially for
Mhm.
the CIO network. And I know you're into event planning, whether it's
Yeah.
virtual, webinars, in person. So like what approaches on your end have you found like the most effective in creating meaningful networking opportunities rather than just stiff traditional conference style gatherings?
Yeah. Oh, I love this question, because I was just at a big conference a couple weeks ago, and it's awesome, and I will preach it to the day that I die. In-person networking, big conferences, they have their place, but partnering them alongside these private communities or these small, networks is to me so valuable. And so I always tell people, they're like, well, why would I join when I, can go to these big in person, meetups? I'm like, well, you can, they're great, but you're not going to get the same insights unfiltered at a sponsored dinner that you're going to get here. You're going to get other insights and they're great and they're valuable. Um, I think for us, like I said, we're fully online. So the value that we're bringing to our members is you can talk to another C-suite, a CISO or a CTO over in, you might be in Texas and they're in Boston area and they're in a totally different industry, but they're coming up to the same struggle with implementing, some type of digital transformation or AI or something like that. And you wouldn't necessarily network with, you know, outside of your industry and your market anywhere else. And then I think for us to have those successful events, we are a small team, and so we are able to react very quickly. So my whole team, there's three of us that attend every single event. I attend to moderate. I've got another member who attends to, take attendance, see who's there, take notes. We share the recordings with all of our members. They're private. If you missed it, you can still watch it. We use AI and do a whole, show note recap, share it to these members. Anything to save our members 5-10 minutes a day. That's kind of our goal. We want to make their lives more efficient. And then I have another member who just takes notes. So notes on what topics they're talking about, who's talking about things, and they earmark different topics for future events. So I think, we can come out of that event, post something on our discussion board and say, hey, you guys talked about X, Y, and Z. Who's the member that wants to host it, we'll reach out to people specifically. But it keeps us very agile in the topics, and we can spin it up and have that call in, 2 weeks. We can have it the same week, but they're too busy. Their calendars are booked. So nothing,
100%.
yeah, give them that 2 week buffer, but we stay really agile on purpose. We don't plan out our events more than, a couple months because the topic will be stale.
So yeah, especially in technology, right? Where it's always ever
Yeah.
evolving and you want to make sure it's relevant. I love that. There's a
Yeah.
couple of things in there that you said that were really key that I want you to dive into, which also goes into another question about just kind of the rapid pace of technology. You talked about, being efficient and moderating the events. And I'm sure people are trying to find ways to use AI, use different tools, especially in community management. But are there any tools or any applications that you're using on a day to day, or any technologies out there that could be relevant for other community managers that they might not be aware of?
Yeah, of course. Actually, it's funny. We had a roundtable call last week, and it was the practical applications of different AI tools
Really?
in a CISO's life. Yeah. So, like, how can they use, Copilot for their day to day reach outs or their LinkedIn posts? Like, it was very practical. But for us specifically, one of my favorite tools is rev.com. It's a
Okay.
transcription service that's been around for a long time, but they came out recently with a subscription model. And it's a live AI transcription. So I've got it running on my phone during a webinar or even when we go to conferences to cover them for, as press. And you have an AI transcription in 10 minutes after the event is done. And
Wow.
it's really good. And so one of the
Pretty
ways
accurate.
that yeah, it's super accurate. And what's cool about it is it also records the audio. So if you think it's not quite right, you can listen to the audio as it's reading the words. So you can fact check it really easily. And so we use that tool a lot when we're building our like show notes and different takeaways to kind of reference. And we'll we've created custom GBTs in chat GBT. So it's like, hey, so we don't have to give the same prompts every time. We use, say we have a show notes one. We actually haven't built one yet, but it's on the list. Um, we drop the transcription in and it spits it out in the format that we like. And then, we go through and edit it because AI is not foolproof. It hallucinates. It gets things wrong.
For sure.
But it cuts the time down of just physically building the show notes immensely. So that's kind of one of our, like I said, small team. We're always looking for the efficiencies.
Yeah.
That really, really.
What's your take on different LLMs like ChatGPT, Claude? Do you have a
Yeah,
personal favorite that you use on a day-to-day or your team? You talked about Copilot. Um,
yeah,
or are there any others that I didn't mention that you like?
yeah. Um, ChatGPT we use as a team, so we've got the team
Mhm.
model, so we can build our own GPTs, which I think is great. I really like Claude. I think it's better for conversational writing. So
I agree.
sometimes I get writer's block, right? When you're reaching out to these people all the time, I'm like, I can't form this sentence in the way that I want. I think Claude's really helpful for that. Uh, I was talking to a CIO yesterday, actually, and he was telling me that Perplexity is really good for
Yeah.
research. And I haven't really played around with it yet, but that's kind of on my list to kind of learn a little bit more about.
Yeah, that's funny you say that. I think what you said about Claude is 100% true. I think it's more practical with the responses it gives, especially with tone of voice and things like that. And I
Yeah,
heard about Perplexity as well. That's on my list to check out. That's only been growing in popularity. I'm sure there's gonna be more on the horizon as it continues, as all the different GPTs get more and more intelligent, especially Rev.com. That sounds really, really useful. I wish I had
yeah.
known about that.
Raven, yeah, it's really cool. I used to use it actually before AI for captions for videos and different things because they have humans transcribing stuff. So it's been
Mhm.
around for a long time and it's awesome for so many things, but their AI is very cost effective and very, very good. So definitely check it out.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. So if we go back to the National CIO review, you guys, if you go to your website, you go to your publication, you're curating the content. There's a lot of competition out there when it comes to, tech articles. There's so many different publications out there similar to what you guys do. So, what do you think sets yourselves apart, and how do you kind of stay on pace with all the other abundance of information that's out there, especially within the tech world?
Yeah. Oh, good question. Oh, I think one of the areas, and I think I said it earlier, that really sets us apart is the fact that we've got these city and technology leaders writing for us. I think a lot of our competitors will interview and they will ask
Yeah.
them, but then their staff journalists will write articles and they're good, they're great, but city and technology leaders want to hear from other people facing the same problems. They don't want to hear from a staff journalist perspectives on all the time. So I think that's one of the ways that we really set ourselves apart. Um, and then, we're super readers of like all news, right? Newsletters. I probably get like 40 different newsletters every morning into my inbox.
Wow.
And I
Okay.
read I read just about every one of them at some
No
point
way.
during the day. Skim it, like read it. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Um, to see what people are writing about. One of the things we do, and we do curate content. So we'll take articles on, the Wall Street Journal or different publications, and we'll write, hey, and the CIO, you guys might want to pay attention to this because of X, Y, and Z. And then we'll link back to the original publication. And I think some old school journalists and publications would say, oh, no, that's maybe not okay. Just like, well, we're not saying it's our content, right? We're sharing with our audience what we think is going to be valuable to them. So that, our short little articles are not super hard to write. So our staff can turn them out pretty quick. Um, and I think that again is also meeting the technology leaders and the C-suite people, giving them, these short snippets of something that maybe they want to dive into, but maybe they don't have the time to dive into
Yeah.
further. So that little summary is all they need for now. I think that that is, we hear from our members and we hear from readers that they love that because it's, a 2-minute read that they can read in line at Starbucks. It's not this big, big, long thing.
Yeah.
So I think that's another way that we're a little bit different. And then we just consume a lot of content as a staff. We've got a Slack channel that we send articles in all day long, and we just kind of mine that and just stay on top of the topic. So
I think it's super important to if you want to be a good curator, you also have to be a good consumer. So you have to consume a lot of content in order to create your own unique perspectives to, curate for the audience. And in being a curator, with so much information out there, and you have so many different social media platforms and publications, and information is coming left, right, and center. Being able to package that in a way that's digestible and relevant and not too overwhelming, I think people are more so than ever looking for, those avenues where it's very tightly curated in a digestible format, which I really noticed about the national CIO. So that makes a lot of sense. And on that
yeah,
same vein,
I was just gonna say, it's the TikTok. It's the we're scrolling. We have to get people to stop scrolling. The attention span is a
I
lot
don't.
shorter than it used
I
to
think it's
be.
only going
You
to get
know,
worse. It's only going to get worse, unfortunately.
yeah. Nothing,
Um,
nothing longer than like 600 words is our typical, you know,
yeah,
target. So, like you
that
said,
makes
digestible.
that makes a lot of sense. And I'm gonna put you
Yeah.
on the spot because I love newsletters, even though I don't read a lot of them as I should. Is there one in
Yeah.
particular that you recommend for the audience, or one that you've read recently or been reading that you would recommend?
Well, for
It
community managers, that's a good question.
doesn't necessarily have to be for community managers either. It could just be a
Yeah.
fun newsletter.
Yeah, that's true. There's a sales one that I actually love. It's called The Follow Up.
Okay.
Um, yeah, The Follow Up. And it's like a smaller, I like their mix of humor that they put
Okay.
into it. It's short and sweet. Of course, for technology leaders, I love the newsletter we put out. I think it's really great. But
Just a little
we're
plug.
big, yeah, we're big fans of, The Hustle and The Morning Brew, like the classic.
Yep.
Those are
Classics.
those are one. And actually the people that Brad Wolverton is, he was one of the like founding members of The Hustle, and he
Yeah.
has a newsletter all about newsletter.
Okay.
So it's actually really, really, this is like another sub niche. There's the community manager niche, and then there's this like how to build newsletters, whole little economy. Um, and Brad Wolverton, I really like his, who he'll kind of analyze different newsletters and say like what I like is what I think performs well and like why. So I think that's really practical newsletter.
I got the follow-up written down, and Brad Wolverton, how to build newsletters. I'm gonna check those out right after this. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
yeah,
So like I was going into before, I was gonna ask, like, what's your strategy now for like balancing content creation, community engagement, and then just overall operational responsibilities between the different, companies that you're in? We already talked about some of the tools that you use for events, but are there any frameworks that you rely on to just manage your day-to-day life, as a director?
yeah. Ooh, good question. I was hoping maybe you would have the answer to this.
Oh, me.
No, I think it's hard, right?
Yeah, it is.
In community management, there's a lot of your day that you're kind of reacting to your members. You want to make sure when they're asking questions, they're getting answered and different things like that. So, you know, prior to community management, I was big on time blocking. I try to do that now, but it's hard, right? When I have a member that's calling me, I've got to drop what I'm doing, and I want to drop what I'm doing. So I think for me, I'm not a morning person. So the last hour of my day is really the day, it's like the time that I make sure that any community, anything that's outstanding is getting done. So if it's emailing or texting or calling these people, I'm gonna do it the last hour of the day. I think it's really easy um, to look at those types of tasks, the community tasks, and go, "Ah, I can wait till later. I've got to get this project done. I got to get operational budget done, or whatever." But if you don't do the community, the rest of the stuff doesn't matter. So last hour of my day has been pretty successful for me. A lot of my team goes home. I've got 30 or 40 minutes when the office is quiet and I can crank out stuff. But I've got two to-do lists and they're always up on my second monitor. So I've got one that's like practical nitty gritty tasks, right? The like super broken down tasks. And then I've got like my overall goals and projects. You can see the board behind me. These are all like projects and different, goals of ours. So just
Yeah.
keeping them at the forefront, I think is a really, for me personally, very, very important because I can get lost in the weeds very easily. So kind of having the two lists next to each other, projects, operational goals, and then the nitty gritty tasks.
That's good. I think, first of all, knowing yourself is super important. So the fact that you know that you're not a morning person and that you're more productive later in the day, we're kind of opposite because I feel like if I put my productivity on a scale, I'm usually the most productive in the morning and it just slowly goes down as the day
Yeah.
wanes, right? So
Yeah.
I try to get a lot of my stuff done early in the day. So knowing yourself is super important. And then just like you said, community is the backbone, right? Without community, nothing else runs, and making sure that you're tailoring to their needs, making sure that they're feeling heard. You
Yeah. I
know,
think I'll add to it. I think my mornings are typically my time to do anything, answer any questions, do anything for my team. So I think
mhm,
that's why the end of the day when it's quiet tends to be my focus time is because I'm like, okay, they're set up, they have everything they need. Now I can focus. So I think that's also kind of important. And they know that by 1 o'clock, they know, okay, well, don't bother her much unless it's, kind of an emergency.
yeah, I love
So
that.
I think
I
that's
love that.
also super helpful, setting those standards so
Yeah.
my team kinda knows, you know, what to expect.
And I like what you said before, having that to-do list. I used to work in the financial management industry before I got into marketing and community management. And they always talk to me about having non-negotiables, like things that if nothing else
Yeah,
gets done today, these are like my non-negotiable 1 or 2 things
yeah,
that I know are super important, and then anything else after that is bonus. So I try to at least have like, okay, I want to be as productive as possible today, but I want to at least get this one thing done or these 2 things done. And I have them up in my notes or on my
mhm,
sticky notes on my computer and then get those things done. But I think that's a framework that's worked for me as well. It's just like, because, we try to multitask, we try to have a list of things to do, which we can usually check off. But I always think that in my mind, there's always like 1 or 2 things that are like the most important for the day, the
I
way I
haven't heard
approach.
it I haven't heard it called non-negotiables before, but I had
Yeah.
a mentor tell me, he was like, "What are the 2 or 3 things that if you get it done today, your day is a win?" Like, how do you just say, "Yeah, today was a win. I got X number done." And so yeah, I still kinda think about it that way.
Yeah. Wins and
Yeah,
losses, a lot of
yeah,
people are competitive and into sports.
yeah,
So that's a good analogy as well. Like it was today a win or
yeah,
a loss. And you can measure it however works in your day to day. So yeah,
yeah.
super good, super good. So as we kind of wrap things up, I have a couple more questions, which is around success. I ask this question a lot to other community managers. We all kind of measure success differently in our different roles, but how do you measure it? What metrics do you look at, or feedback mechanisms do you look at that you have found the most valuable in your niche in your current job title?
Yeah, great question. Um, I think, you know, in our niche, we're talking with technology leaders and they're inherently introverted. So sometimes getting them to
Hmm.
talk like on the discussion boards on our community is hard. They're very, very thoughtful with their responses. And so they're not going to cloud up with like, yeah, great post or like following. They don't do that. They don't want to contribute to the noise. They only want to share feedback or share responses, if they have something valuable to share. So I think that is one of the things that we didn't necessarily anticipate when we were building this community. We're a team of extroverts. So we were like, well, why aren't they commenting? And so we had to redefine what that success looked like. And that's where launching some member-led roundtables really helped because then we were able to see the relationship that they were building. Prior to that, we just had speakers come in, and we still do that. Speakers come in and speak to our members. So I think that that was one of the things of us going, okay, our definition of success is different. We need to listen to our members and redefine it. So once we redefined it, then we're looking at, who's registering, who's joining, who's opening the email. Introverts are, I call them lurkers. They're logging in. So logging in and opening of emails is a big thing we look at because I can tell, oh, this person has logged in a long time. I need to reach out to them. See, are they good? Have they been traveling? That could be a risk for them wanting to leave the community, and I don't want that. Um, that's one of the main ways we do it. And then we do the old school. We send out like an annual NPS email, and then based on what responses we get, I hop on the call. I hop on the phone, set up calls with people, and I ask them more. I say, hey, I saw you commented this. What do you mean? Like, tell me more. I think nothing beats just having a conversation with somebody, you know? And you have to go into those NPS calls ready to make changes. You can't just have these calls and send out these surveys and do nothing because that's like the worst thing that you can do for a community because it erodes that trust that you've built. So I think trust, open communication, I think those are the two biggest things for us. So
Mhm.
when in doubt, I'm just calling people, reaching out, bugging them, telling them, sorry, I'm bugging you. Tell me to stop.
Yeah.
And I've never gotten anybody to say, no, no, stop reaching out. And, it's always the opposite. It's like, oh no, I missed that. Thank you so much for, letting me know that the event is tomorrow because I hadn't registered. Because I've got my like core group that are on almost all of our roundtables. We do a couple a month. And if they don't register, I'm calling them or I'm following up. I'm saying, hey, hope everything's good. Just want to make sure you call there. Uh, so that's kind of conversations and then looking at the different areas, the login, the email open, are they downloading resources? We in our private community cannot define success just based on the public, posting and commenting.
Feel like what you said towards the end about your top contributors and if they're not going to the roundtables, you're calling them, kind of reminds me of the 80-20 rule, how
Yeah.
20% of inputs create 80% of the results. And,
Yeah.
you're kind of talking about a small group of people who drive a large part of the discussion, go to all the events, and you really want to make sure you nurture those people, especially because at the end of the day, it's almost impossible to have 100% engagement and 100% open
Mhm.
rates and things like that. But those people who are organically and deeply engaged, you want to nurture them even more, call them, bug them. When they're not showing up for some reason, make sure they're good because
Yeah.
I think it's super important, especially in community, to know your customer profile, to know your members, and at a deeper level, you know that they're introverts, you know that they're busy, probably
Mhm.
high stress. So
Yeah.
understanding them, especially as a community manager, goes a long way because then they feel like their needs are being met. They know that the membership or the community that they're a part of is also looking out for them, and they'll equally want to contribute back to that. Yeah, I thought that was really key.
Thanks.
That was
Yeah,
great.
I think in addition to that, I think for us, it goes back to me. I kind of use some of these relationships in the sales cycle. It sounds so counterintuitive because I'm not. These are genuine relationships that I have. It's not high level, but um, when they mention their kids' names or their ages or their sport, I'm noting that down. I mean,
Yeah,
the notes that I have on these people, and when I see them post on, they're like, oh, my daughter. I'm like, oh, I hope Sarah or whatever their name is doing well. Like
I love that.
yeah, the small personal touches I think go a long, long way.
is there anything that you can share that might be surprising to people about CIOs or CTOs or big name tech leaders? I'm not going to ask you to name any
Yeah.
names, but you said that they're introverts, high stress, very busy. But out of all these conversations, is there like anything that was challenging that you faced when talking to a particular person, or something that surprised you about a particular person? Again, you don't have to name names, but
Yeah.
Anything that would be interesting for the audience to hear?
Um, I think, like I said, I think they're very thoughtful with their responses. And I think
Mhm.
that that goes to everything they do. They can be demanding sometimes,
Yeah.
but I think that that can come across as demanding and writing, but maybe when you're talking to them on the phone, it's just they're trying, they're quick and efficient. Um, but they don't take themselves too seriously. That's always surprised me. And they really like a mix of humor. So for us, once we learned that, we, put gifts in our posts and we make little office space jokes. And, once we figured out those things that they like, they're not necessarily the group that's going to be really big into sports. Some of them are, not all of them are very, um,
True.
but yeah, bringing some humor into, "Hey, okay, here's another professional dev book that you guys, we think you'll like." But, then the next post we share is like, a little YouTube video from Ted Lasso, right? And it's like the
Mhm.
goldfish or
Yeah.
the believe, and it's
Yeah.
it's the humor and it's the lighthearted. They really appreciate that, and I think, if we can be that thought for them, that tends to be well received from this group. So don't take them too seriously.
Don't take them too seriously. That's the name of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I always say that memes run the world because memes are the thing that connects all of us.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're in the US or in Australia, like, if we all know about a meme or a funny thing that happened in pop culture, like, that connects us and makes us laugh and breaks that ice between people that might not know each other, so, I don't think people utilize memes enough. I don't think we should all any of us should take ourselves too seriously because we're all, at the end of the day, humans, so I think that's how we should
Yeah.
should treat one another.
Yeah. 100%.
Kelsey, this has been amazing. This has been great. Someone who loves technology, who's in it every single day. Are there any emerging trends that you see, tech leaders and how tech
Mhm.
leaders connect and share their knowledge, or just any new technology that's currently exciting you? You're into different newsletters. You talked about AI today. You can talk more about that, but anything that is currently piquing your interest that you'd like to share.
Yeah. Oh, awesome question. I thought a lot about this. I have so many ideas. I have so many ideas. I'm so excited about
Wasn't
a
it
lot of
for
things. Yeah. Oh, I think really what I'm most excited about is how the combination of how, the AI technology compare to the accessibility and the efficiency aspect. Like, cool, it's awesome. We can copy stuff into ChatGPT or Claude or whatever. But I'm really excited for like they're talking now about agentic AI. I don't know if you've heard of that at all, but
sounds
it's,
familiar.
it's AI that works for you. So it's like Siri, a little it's Siri on steroids, right? So you
Yeah.
can ask it to actually accomplish tasks for you and
Oh,
it can
like
think
AI
on its
agents.
own. Yeah, yeah, AI
Got
agents. That's exactly what it is.
Gotcha.
And so I'm really excited to see how that can pair into communities. I think that
Mhm.
that is going to be really strong in a couple years, maybe. Whether it's helping members respond to things or download things or whatever it could be. I think that that could be very exciting and a real game changer. But other than that,
Yeah.
I think we're just on the cusp of a lot of really, really cool things. And in the next 6 months to a year, I think it's going to be a totally different landscape. And I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, it's exciting, it's scary, it's piques your curiosity, all those emotions in
Yeah.
one, and I've been hearing a lot about AI agents. My last conversation, we talked about how Slack, for example, has AI agents being
Yeah.
deployed very soon, so it's gonna automate responses in your Slack for you,
Oh,
connect different teams. So I'm sure that application is being applied to various other industries and platforms and technologies. This has been great, Kelsey. I think we got a lot out of this. This has been really fun, and the time has flown by. But if anyone wants to connect with you or learn more about, the CIO review, subscribe to the CIO network or anything like that, where can they find you or connect with you all?
LinkedIn is the best place. Got all the links there. I mean, you can
Right.
subscribe to the newsletter on the website, but yeah, send me a LinkedIn and no, I love talking to people. So
Awesome, awesome. Well,
yeah.
thanks for hopping on the Community Managers podcast. and we'll have to definitely do this again soon.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Brandon. That's great.
Stay tuned for more guests every single week as we talk all things community management and how we are all redefining our role across different industries. If you're looking to future proof your community career and stay ahead of the curve, hear from all the different insights that I've been receiving from the community managers I've been talking to, please sign up to my newsletter. It's at thecommunitymanagerspodcast.com. I'm capping it at 500 people to keep it exclusive and build a tight knit community of community managers across the world. So you don't want to miss that. Once again, I'm your host, Brandon Iverson, here at the Community Managers Podcast. And until next time, have a good one